Welcome to Venezuela Insider, the only place in Venezuela for expats, digital nomads, entrepreneurs, investors, travelers, and related internationals. For more information, venezuelainsider.com. Today we are going to talk about a study that accordingly to such study, economic study, Venezuela has a very important middle class, quote unquote emerging middle class, compared on what we got on the prior years. Of course, we had a awful recession, and recession is underselling it. But however, Venezuela, the Venezuelan GDP, the Venezuelan economy has grown quite a bit. Let's say 20% on the past couple of years. We're poised to grow between 4-5% GDP on 2023 after an 80% GDP collapse the past decade, and this collapse didn't went unnoticed. And the main takeaway today is that we have a different economy with a different kind of consumer and a different kind of participant in such economy. So today we are talking about the new emerging middle class in Venezuela. So let's start. First, let's start by talking about who made such study, and in this case is by a firm named Data Analysis. It's a very known economic and political studies firm that we have in Venezuela, and is run by a very known economist on the country, Luis Vicente León. Luis Vicente is actually a very smart man. He is also a very well-spoken individual and intellectual on the Venezuelan society. However, at the same time, he is very controversial because he has some point of views that are, let's say, controversial, of course, but sometimes he's been a little bit accused to be, let's say, not in favor of the government because he criticizes the government a lot, but at the same time he's kind of like to massage the reality in certain situations. He doesn't condemn the situation as severe as it is perceived by Venezuelan society. So every time you read or listen to Luis Vicente León, take it with a grain of salt. However, he is a very smart man, I have to say. He's a very well-known, well-spoken man regarding economics and politics within the country. So, it's not a bad idea to just review for full of thought what he has to say about the Venezuelan economy. Well, according to this story, Venezuela has an emerging middle class of 3.5 million people. That's more than 10% of the population, and this population is quite considerable. It's larger than the entire country of Uruguay and close to the size of Panama's population. So that means that despite the fact that Venezuela has this awful economic crisis the past decade, and still today the conditions are far from being the better for investment or for economic growth, still has a very significant consumer population that also you have to add the rest of the population that, of course, they demand for consumer goods and services. Regarding the budget, still they need to purchase at the very least basic goods and services. By the other hand, he also explains this analysis that this population, this emerging middle class, is quite different than the past middle class that we had on the past decades before the crisis, because usually here in Venezuela the middle class was made by professionals, people that are high skilled, have high advanced degrees, so they are very well educated, and also at the moment
on the past time, they were very, actually, they had good income offering their high skill services. I'm talking doctors, engineers, accountants, college professors, you name it. You basically get the idea. And of course, you had small entrepreneurs, small business owners that also were on this, let's say, the past middle class. However, due to the economic situation, basically their income got decimated and they either migrated from the country or are still in the country with lower standard of living compared to what they had just a few decades ago. However, it's not the case with the new emerging middle class because unlike the previous middle class, this new emerging middle class, they are made by small entrepreneurs that most likely they work on informal businesses. Let's say, and there is many cases of these people who resell meat or resell poultry or resell fruits and vegetables. I'm talking essential services, essential goods and services that are required in not only on the Venezuelan population but any given population overall. So they found out a way to thrive despite of this huge economic crisis. Also, we have this new phenomena of remote work. We already discussed that here on the channel on Venezuela Insider, that we are the population that works remote. They offer their goods and services, and of course, most likely are services online because they have high skills like they are proficient on a second language, most likely English. Also, they offer services like accounting, tax, law services, also IT. They are content creators, they are graphic designers, there are video editors, you name it. Any kind of, let's say, valuable service that you can offer via remote, you can monetize it. And in Venezuela, most of these people already own their own homes or they live on some relative already own home, so they don't have to pay rent, they don't have to pay basic expenses, basic living expenses like housing, like transportation, so they live a little bit, let's say, relatively comfortable. And of course, you also have to put some people that have some under the counter activity or they straight out have some illegal activities like on the rest of the world. So this new emerging middle class most likely don't depend on a college degree like the previous middle class because that's one of the things that is a little bit, stings on the Venezuelan population is that this new middle class most likely is not as well educated, as well prepared as the previous middle class that is being that has suffered the most significant impact on the decrease of standard of living, of course, due to the awful economic crisis that we had on prior years. According to the story, these middle class have household incomes between $1,700 and over $5,000 per month. That is very significant, very considerable compared to the rest of the world, even some developed nations, some OECD nations. Of course, still a little bit more of 10% of the population, and the rest of the population is living on an income around $300 per month, $300, $500 per month per household, not even per person. So you have this new emerging middle class that has mutated, the social classes have mutated since of course, this awful, dreadful recession that we had last decade. But that doesn't mean the economy is dead because these people, I'm talking 28 million people within Venezuela, they still want to thrive, they have hopes and dreams, they want to develop both personal and professional projects. So you cannot disregard just very lightly these people that still require goods and services and need to be taken care of. And any given entrepreneur or larger company that has a good strategy to offer such goods and services within Venezuela has a very good shot to make themselves profitable, because with crisis comes opportunities. So we're seeing emerging companies in Venezuela, and also the old household names like, let's say, Polar, or let's say Santa Teresa. Well, I'm giving a shout out both of those companies that offer goods and services for those people. But also we have some outsider players. I'm talking Brazilian companies. I'm talking Turkish companies. I'm seeing many Turkish products on Venezuelan supermarkets or convenience stores, and you name it. And also lately we also are having some Colombian companies that are investing in Venezuela, especially since the normalization of the Colombian-Venezuelan relationship, since Gustavo Petro took power and is very close to Maduro. Very good for that. And lastly, the situation in Venezuela is still dire, still tough to make business. However, the biggest opportunity that you might find here is that there is no defined market share on each of the services and the industries, because the Venezuelan consumer doesn't have brand loyalty for any company whatsoever if they found let's say a new product or a new service that offers better quality or a better price, a better return on investment, or then purchase.
Thank you for watching Venezuela Insider. Please like, share, and subscribe. Follow us on social media. If you want to work with us, VenezuelaInsider.com. Thanks again and have a nice day.